Hospitality Meets is brought to you by RotaCloud, the simple workforce management software for hospitality teams. RotaCloud lets you create and share rotas, record attendance, and manage your team's annual leave, all in less time than it takes to make a brew. It can also make life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request holiday, and even pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be. Welcome to Hospitality Meets with me, Phil Street, where each week we take a light-hearted look into the stories and individuals that make up the wonderful world of hospitality. Today's guest is Sally Abbey, superstar chef and author of A Woman's Place is in the Kitchen. Coming up on today's show, Sally tells us how she likes to spend her time.
It's like lying in bed all day eating Doritos.
Phil reveals a key source of inspiration.
That website has been responsible for many a dinner party at my house.
And Sally makes us ask what on earth was happening in this story.
Then they came back in the kitchen and started pelting us all with snowballs during the service.
All that and so much more as we chat through Sally's journey so far, as well as talking about her quite wonderful book launched earlier this year, A Woman's Place is in the Kitchen. Sally is absolutely epic, and please don't forget to hit that subscribe button wherever you get your podcasts. Enjoy. And a huge Hospitality Meets welcome to Sally Abbey.
Thank you very much.
How are you?
I am good on this lovely sunny day.
Yeah, and we're stuck in the dungeon somewhere. It feels
with
like
air conditioning.
With air conditioning, the critical factor on this 27 or 28 degree day that we're in. But yeah, how's life?
Good, yes, all good. Just been very busy. The book came out 2 weeks ago, so just on the promotion trail at the moment.
Yeah, that'll be pretty relentless, I would imagine.
Yes, yeah, lots going on, lots of appearances and interviews and stuff. So yeah, all good.
Yeah, very, very grateful for you taking the time to chat to me then in the midst of all of that
you are
as
most
well.
welcome.
But I think your journey will play quite a lot. There'll be a lot of inspiration for people in there, I think, as well. I have read your book, so I'm one of the lucky ones so far, I guess.
Good to hear, yeah.
But I will obviously kind of talk about the book as we go, because you're one of the, I suppose I've never done this before, whereby normally I talk to people about their journey, but they haven't automatically written a book about it at the same time. So that's kind of cool as well. So before we kind of get stuck into the book, etc., maybe just take us all the way back to the beginning. Mm-hmm. And how did you get into hospitality in the first place?
So I think I'd sort of worked in and around hospitality, you know, when it first started when I was at school, to be honest. I worked in the local golf club and then worked in bars and restaurants as waitress when I was much younger. And then the path to actually doing it full time was kind of accidental, really. I'd moved to Sheffield to live with my boyfriend at the time and just got really into cooking at home. And just really, really loved it and thought, you know, maybe there's something in this and I can make a career out of it. So I pursued it, basically, and enrolled on a hospitality business management degree and then ended up coming to London as a placement and then never going back.
Right, yeah, the rest is history. Thanks very much. We'll call it a day. Nothing else to report, is there, really? Where was your placement?
It was at the Savoy.
Okay, yeah. I mean, not a bad place to
start.
Yes,
yeah, exactly. Yeah, definitely went in at the top, I think.
yeah. Well, but I suppose that's a sink or swim moment, I guess, as well, because you can go into an environment like that, and I'm making assumptions here, but, you know, at any age, that can be a daunting environment to go into if you've not got a lot of experience in that environment. How did you find it?
Well, I think the fact that I'd got no experience at all kind of stopped it from being so daunting. You know, they say ignorance is bliss. I'd got no idea what was going on, so I just rocked up there with my brand new set of Victorinox knives ready to go and, you know, got asked of Bromwells and net of shallots on the first day and I was like, what does that mean? Right. You know, was met with a few eye rolls and but it just kind of picked up as I went along and threw myself into it, really. Right,
yeah. So did you have an immediate love for it when you walked in, or did you have to find your love?
No, I think I did. I think I never really got on with school so much, and I was always a bit naughty, and I'd never really sort of found my calling. And when I got into the kitchen environment, I just really loved like the hustle and the bustle and the pressure and all the different people and the fact that it was just so hands-on and you had to sort of think on your feet a lot. I think that I worked really well under those circumstances.
Right. So you were you were hooked.
Yes.
You're in.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So what happened next? How long were you there and where did you progress to?
So I was at the Savoy Grill until the Savoy closed for its big refurb in December 2007.
Right.
So they moved
God,
me.
was that then?
Yeah, I know.
Feels like yesterday.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
They moved me over to Gordon Ramsay at Claridge's. So I started there in January 2008. Sort of cut my teeth there, really. I was there for just about 2 years. And yeah, that was kind of the basis of where I learned to cook. You know, the Savoy was I was there for 6 or 7 months before it closed. But obviously I'd got literally no idea what I was doing. So it was more just sort of getting used to the kitchen environment and the hours and the way of working and everything. And then Claridge's is where I started to really learn how to cook.
Right, yeah. Claridge's was actually my first fine dining experience in London.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, just drop that in there. I'm trying to think when that would have been. That would have been 2004, so predating your time there. But yeah, so what was your official role at that time then at Claridge's?
Well, when I started there, I was a commie and then moved my way up to, I think I was senior chef de partie when I left. So
right,
yeah,
and across how long were you there?
2 years.
2 years.
Yeah,
okay.
yeah.
So that's, I suppose, a kind of natural progression.
Yeah, I mean, I was always the kind of person that would push very hard and really wanted to sort of get onto the next section and do the next thing and learn the next skill. So yeah, I mean, I think 2 years is quite a short space of time, but I'm very determined. So.
Yeah. How do you marry I suppose, the desire to push on versus the need to consolidate learning? Because this is something that I see quite a lot of. There's no shortage of people who want to crack on, but I think it's one thing to want to crack on, but you've got to get a base level of knowledge and skill under your belt.
Yeah, definitely. You've got to learn to walk before you can run, right? And I certainly wanted to run.
Yeah.
And I think when I left Claridge's, I thought I knew it all, and then got brought back down to earth with a bang in my next couple of positions. And I think in a lot of restaurants, you might have been the sauce chef at your previous restaurant, but in your new restaurant you get stuck back down at the beginning, so you start again.
Right.
Because it's a whole new team, it's a new menu, it's a new everything. So you've got to learn it from the bottom again. I don't think it's until really you've got probably 5 years experience under your belt that you can really be expecting to sort of go in at a more senior level, because you might know how to do everything perfectly at one restaurant, but it's not the same at another restaurant, and then you need to learn their way of working and how they do things. There's more than one way to, skin a cat or boil an egg, I suppose. So.
Not had a menu with a skinned cat on it.
No, me neither. I don't really want one.
No. So where did you go? Where was the next stop after Claridge's?
So the next stop is a restaurant that I won't name because I've talked a lot about it in the book, and
that
for legal reasons, can't really say.
Yeah.
But yeah, had a pretty gruesome experience there over 4 months. So quickly left, moved on, and then moved over to the Ledbury.
Yeah.
Was at the Ledbury for 5 years.
These are some places you are
Yeah.
working your way around.
Yeah, for sure. I always wanted to be in, really high-end places and places that I could learn a lot. And, I owe most of what I know and most of my career to Brett and the Ledbury.
Right.
And then, obviously, the Harwood Arms after, which is also owned by Brett Graham. So I spent a total of almost 10 years working for him. So, yeah. Good stab of time.
Yeah, for sure. And actually, I had written a question to ask you around where your kind of early influences came from. It sounds like Brett was a massive part of that.
Yeah, 100%. I think Brett's obviously got a phenomenal mind for food and dishes, but also for business as well. And I think he was always happy to impart all of his knowledge on his team, not just the food stuff. So, yeah, I owe him a lot.
Yeah. And your progression with him, what did you start as and what did you finish as?
Well, so I started as chef de partie at the Ledbury, and then,
And that was the same as before, back to the grindstone, as it were?
Pretty much, yeah. And then, I don't know, they didn't really do labels so much at the Ledbury, but by the time I left, I was probably equivalent to junior sous chef, essentially, yeah. So
right.
I was doing a lot of the, running the kitchen jobs as well as being on section, and had a lot of responsibilities there when I left. So yeah, it's a good long time.
Yeah, absolutely. And 2 Michelin stars at this point?
It was 2 then, yes, 3 now.
3 now,
good.
indeed.
Yeah.
And
just won 2
of the year,
when I
or,
started. Yeah, I know. It's great to see them doing so well again after having been closed for a couple of years. So.
Yeah. Indeed. But that almost, I think, feels a little bit like that was a refresh time, perhaps, for him as well to
I think
regroup
so.
and go again.
You know, I think, you know, having that time off, you know, certainly gives you time to think about what it is you really want and what direction you want to go in. You know, Brett's very into, he's not just a restaurateur, like he owns a lot of livestock as well, and he's very passionate about farming and sustainable farming. He makes like a rapeseed oil from the same grains that he feeds to his animals. So it's all like full circle farming, and I think that's very, very important to him. And then he can put those, you know, meats on in his restaurant, and it all gets very joined up, so nothing goes to waste. That's and there's brilliant. No like air miles involved, essentially. Yeah.
Well, I mean, you know, that's a front and center thing right now, isn't it? But that's a podcast for a totally different forum. But I think maybe in these two roles as well, the place that shall not be named previously, and then Brett, also probably highlights to me that, you know, you can be lucky or not, right, in terms of where you go and who you learn from or don't learn from as it happens, and what a massive part that can play in establishing somebody's love for the industry or not.
Yeah, 100%. You know, if you get into a bad kitchen or bad restaurant, some people leave the industry as a result of it. You know, I've had lots of messages since the book came out and the Guardian interview I did just before it came out, from people reaching out saying, you know, I'd worked in this place or that place, and like after that I just couldn't do it anymore. And it's really sad to see that. You know, I'm sure we've lost a lot of really capable, excellent people as a result of mistreatment, and that makes me very, very sad.
Yeah, and that's just a basic human principle that we should not be having to deal with.
You'd think so.
Well, indeed, yeah. When you say it out loud, it sounds ludicrous, right? But here we are. It's regrettably still out there in some places. But I think the key thing, and maybe this is around your journey into writing about your experiences as well, is that, you know, what's the phrase? Evil flourishes when good people do nothing.
Yeah.
And almost like there's this, I suppose, this call to arms for those of us who do care to, yes, call it out, but I suppose make sure that people get educated that that's not the norm.
Yeah.
Because sometimes I feel like that's what people think the norm is.
Yes, yeah, and I think that's why a lot of people shy away from hospitality, unfortunately. And, you know, for me, it's about being the change that I want to see.
Yeah. And
sort of trying to be outspoken about that, not just quietly doing it, but saying, hey guys, like, hey everyone, it doesn't have to be like this. Let's make it a change and make it a, you know, welcoming, respectful, diverse place to work, and it works so much better and everybody's happier when that's the case. Yeah.
Why don't it? I mean, it just makes common sense, isn't it?
No, it does. Well, it does to you and I.
Yeah, indeed. So let's conclude your journey, as it were. So you left Brett, junior sous-ish, we'll call it. What happened next?
So I actually took a little bit of a break from the kitchen for a year and a half after that. Yeah, 5 years Ledbury was amazing, but it definitely took its toll on my body and my brain. So I went and worked for a recipe website called Great British Chefs. So I did like recipe testing and development and food styling and stuff like that for them, which was... It was really interesting, actually. I did enjoy it, but after 18 months, I just started to get itchy feet and missed the pull of the kitchen and the pace of the kitchen. So I actually went to work for Phil Harwood at Ellison Street.
I mean, you're dropping some names. We've had Phil on the show as well.
Have you? Yeah. I mean, Phil is just amazing. Like the way that he thinks about food and ingredients is just... Yeah, I find it very romantic, the way Phil cooks. Right. Just like the love and care that goes into it. Yeah, I mean, he's just such an elegant person. Like, I've got a huge amount of respect for him, and I was only with him for a short time, which was quite bittersweet for me because I'd always wanted to work for Phil. But, you know, I did learn a lot in the 9-10 months that I was there. But then the head chef job opportunity came up at the Harwood Arms, and I just couldn't turn that down. So went over to the Harwood.
Yeah. But I mean, these are your career so far to this point. Now you're obviously making a name for yourself, but these people are like they're so formative, aren't they, in terms of your direction, maybe even the drive they give you beyond your own drive and these sorts of things?
Yeah, definitely. I think it's important to have role models, and I think it's, it's a bit sad for me that there weren't really very many women to look up to at that period in my life, but there were a lot of, that era of chefs is kind of like the golden era of chefs, wasn't it? Like, when being a chef first became sort of cool, and people, like the restaurant scene in London and certainly the UK was starting to really explode. And it was just important to me to work for the best so that I could try and be the best myself.
Yeah, absolutely. There's another saying, isn't there, around you're the sum of the 5 people you spend the most amount of time with. So
I've not heard that before. Okay.
So if you're spending a huge amount of time with somebody like Phil Howard, you're going to undoubtedly take something from him in that time. And I think he's the sort of guy that willingly gives it.
100%, yeah. He's happy to pass on his knowledge and teach others,
He's also responsible for, I'm not going to make this podcast about Phil Howard, by the way, but he's also responsible for one of my favourite quotes that I've ever had on this show, which was, it's amazing how hard people will work for you if they're happy.
There you go. Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
I think that's very, very true.
Yeah, absolutely. And, look, we're realists as well. You can't have perfection every single shift of every single day of your working life. That's just, that's unreasonable to expect that. Yeah. But you can at least make the vast majority of them, the least thing, the least of the things that you can do is get out of people's way and let them flourish.
100%,
Yeah, absolutely. I just want to rewind slightly back to your experience on Great British Chefs. How did that come about in the first place? Was that just fortuitous?
It was just a bit of, I just took a punt and sent them an email and said, hey, I'm looking for a job. And they literally emailed me back the next day, can you come in for an interview? And I was just like, oh my God. And it was just perfect timing, really. They were looking for somebody to do exactly what I was looking to do. So they basically expanded, and they were looking for somebody with the technical knowledge to be able to help with all the recipes that they were publishing, and they didn't have that. So, and they basically were looking for that job at that exact time that I sent that email. So it was just really good timing, really, all round,
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, these things can just happen sometimes, can't they? And that website actually is, I'm not a chef, but I am a passionate amateur chef. I'm the master of my own kitchen, as it were, which is, has a maximum capacity of about 4 people. But that website has been responsible for many a dinner party at my house.
That's good to hear,
yeah. Yeah, because it's exactly the sort of thing that I get inspired by, is seeing all of these names from the industry, offering up some insight into the types of things that they cook, but also making it accessible for somebody like me who wants to push himself a little bit in my own kitchen to produce really excellent food.
Yeah, definitely. I think that's what makes that website quite unique.
Yeah, absolutely. So, back up to speed. Head chef, Harwood Arms.
Yes, yeah. So,
This is your first official head chef position.
That was my first head chef role, yes. So, took over there in 2017 and, just cracked on with it, really. And I really wanted to, it's the first time that I'd got the reins, and I really wanted to make it my own and put my stamp on it and my mark on it. And I did that, and it got very widely recognised. And we, I'm so proud of what the team and the food that we were, and the drinks and everything that we were doing at the time. It was a really special place, and it was a real honour to be in charge of it and running every day. I mean, it was still hard, don't get me wrong. The hours never got easier, and there's always challenges that come with working in an independent restaurant and also a 200-year-old building. There's millions of things that can go wrong. But I think it was hard to start off with because I was learning how to be a head chef for the first time.
Yeah.
And, finding my feet, and then the team was a bit rocky for a while, just finding it hard to keep staff, but eventually I managed to sort of stabilise it, and then we were able to sort of elevate the offering, and we managed to get to number 1 in the top 50 gastropubs in 2020, which was an amazing achievement. Something that I'd said to Brett when I took over, I was like, I want to win that, and he's like, you will, and then within 3 years I'd managed to get to the top. But it was just a shame COVID came and crushed all the dreams.
That's the understatement of the year. It's a little bit of a shame. Yes. No, but I suppose we can maybe all now look back on that period and, you know, what's meant to be is meant to be, right? And it was pretty bloody awful. I think that's without question for anyone really that touches hospitality as their career. But also, you know, can be a really excellent reflective time to, I don't know, to set the record straight with yourself. Am I where I should be? And, you know, start looking forward again. I think a lot of people were able to do that.
Yeah, definitely.
In that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think everybody did a lot of soul searching during that time.
Didn't anything else to do, did they?
Well, yeah, no. It was, very reflective time for me. And I think it made me sort of look at what I wanted to do and where I wanted to be. And I knew that I was coming to the end of wanting to work 70 hours a week. Like, it wasn't good for me physically, it was not good for me mentally, and I wanted to work towards being able to try to find a better work-life balance. Because as much as you love the job, like, it is important to have a life outside of the job. And
the love only takes you so far, right?
Yeah, exactly. And, you know, as you get older, like, it's fine when you're, you know, I think I would say to anyone that's sort of 18, 19, 20, 21 even, go and work those crazy hours, because you will learn a lot. You know, you'd learn double what you'd learn in a 40-hour week, but it's not sustainable forever, you know.
Yeah.
And, you know, I was in my 30s by the time I was the head chef at the Harwood, and it's just, you know, it's just not what I wanted to continue to do forever, because it's exhausting. You know, it's really, really tiring, and like I felt that I'd got more to offer to the world than being tired all the time. So
that's fair.
Yeah.
Yeah. And that, you know, and then the world doesn't get the best out of you,
well,
right?
No, and also, you know, I think at points in my career, you know, you wear it as a badge of honour, and I'm not ashamed to say I'm tired. I don't want to work here. I don't think that makes me any less of a chef or any less of a person for not wanting to be knackered all the time. So.
Yeah. That's a 90s mentality,
yeah,
isn't it?
It is,
that old lunch for wimps is, you know, lunches for wimps kind of mentality.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but actually now the and it's quite right that it's gone this way, is that it's, you know, there's no point in trying to look after the world if you can't look after yourself.
Exactly, yeah.
And you've got to, you know, listen to, and this becomes, you know, more prevalent the older you get as well. You've got to listen to your body and your mind.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, make time for yourself and give yourself time to switch off as well, which is something I've always had a hard time with. So.
Yeah, but I think that's a byproduct of doing something that you really care about, though, isn't it?
Yeah. I think there's a fine line between, you know, love and obsession.
Yeah, that's fair. Absolutely.
5-star hospitality means having the right people in the right place at the right time, and that's exactly where RotaCloud can help. RotaCloud is the online platform that makes planning rotas, recording attendance, and managing annual leave easy. Its simple, drag-and-drop interface lets you create and share rotas with your team in minutes, while our built-in budgeting tools mean you'll know exactly how much you're spending on staffing before sending the rota out. RotaCloud also makes life easier for your staff, allowing them to check their rotas, request time off, and pick up extra shifts, all through the RotaCloud mobile app. Start your 30-day free trial today by visiting rotacloud.com/Phil and find out how much easier managing your team can be.
Yeah, so COVID struck. How did you navigate that period, and then how did the next move kind of, I suppose, manifest itself?
I mean, yeah, COVID was hard. I mean, I actually volunteered in a homeless shelter for the whole of the first lockdown, because first of all, I didn't want to be sat doing nothing all day every day, so I would have gone completely nuts. But second of all, you know, it's important to give back when you can, and I'd never really had the chance to do that before. So there's a place called Refectorio Felix, which is actually in Earl's Court, which is around the corner from my house. And I just called them up and said, hey, you know, do you need a hand? And they snapped my hand off, and I was there the next day, and I did Monday to Friday 8 till 2 there for the whole of the first lockdown. So yeah, I just wanted to I just have that sense of routine, I guess, and it was nice. It was kind of just like, well, I'm just going to work, you know, just trying to keep, you know, semblance of normality going. And then, you know, around that time I got approached by Hilton, who were looking to renew the concepts here at the Conrad St James, and they wanted me to be their consultant chef. So started those conversations, and then reopened the Harwood in September 2020, and then with view to move over to the Conrads permanently in like the January basically, and then obviously we had another lockdown.
Yeah.
So yeah, that all got messed up. But I basically started with Hilton in January 2021, and then we were working on getting everything ready because the main restaurant here is the Pem restaurant, which I look after. That's like my main focus of the hotel, and then I also write the menus for the Blue Ball pub, which is like a more relaxed offering, which is very classic British pub fare. And then I was also writing the menus for afternoon tea and for the Hedgerow Cocktail Bar as well. So it was a big change for me in terms of, going from running one independent restaurant to overseeing 4 outlets, with all different menus and operating hours and different teams and stuff. So it was a really big step up and a really big challenge. And I was really, really excited about taking it. But because it was more of a ops-led role, it meant that I didn't have to be in the kitchen on service, 5, 6, 7 days a week. So it's actually given me more time and opportunity to do other things, such as have the time to write a book. And do Grey British Menu and all these other things that I've done in the last few years. So it's been really liberating, really, to see that there is more out there than not just standing at the pass, because that's also a really valuable thing to do. But I think I don't like doing the same thing all the time. I like to do lots of different things. I think it keeps me young and keeps me motivated when I've got lots on the go. So
yeah, but I suppose that's, you feed into what your brain / body is telling you that you want, and you wanted a little bit more like work-life balance. Yeah, and it sounds like you're getting that here, while still having a pretty focused and full-on role.
It's definitely action-packed, my life now. I'm always doing something somewhere. Certainly not just like lying in bed all day eating Doritos. I wish I could be sometimes.
Sometimes.
But and then sometimes you can just be like, right, I'm not working today, I'm going away for the weekend, and that's nice too. So it's that flexibility to do it on my own terms, and I think that's what I need the most, because I am quite a headstrong, independent person. It's nice to be able to work for myself, so I can determine how much I work, when I work, rather than have a rota dictated to me.
Yeah, but I think what I like about that as a kind of, I suppose, an addendum to your story so far, is that you've absolutely earned the right to do that. Like, you've put the graft in, you've done the it's not just about the hours, but you've done lots of different, yes, indeed, and lots of different experiences in different places, working with and for different people. It's not a case of I've done 2 years, so I know it. You've done. I don't want to say you've done your time. That sounds terrible.
Yeah, no, but it's true, and I really wanted to make sure that I'd done that as well. I think there's always that little sort of imposter syndrome in the back of the mind. You're good enough. You sure you've got enough? And I'm like, actually, I've got masses of experience, and I've got a lot to give as a result of that experience. So I think sometimes if I'm at home on a Saturday night or out in the pub on a Saturday night, I do get the odd pang of guilt, but like you said, I've kind of earned it. So
totally, absolutely. Let's talk about the Pem, because I walked through the space for the first time. I have to say, I'm sorry that I've not been here before. Beautiful space. Yeah, really, gorgeous, really beautiful space. Love the colour schemes. Just come in.
So we wanted it to be like elegant and feminine, but not girly. And I think we've done a really good job of that. We've got these, we like to call it rosy hues, but it's like lovely deep reds and velvet. And I think it feels like a place that you could come on a first date. It feels like a place that you could come on a date that you maybe shouldn't be on. It feels like a place you could come with friends. It's got that kind of romanticism to it that I think is nice. And at night time, it's a really great place to be. Yeah,
I was also thinking it's a great place to come and have a business meeting.
Absolutely. We do get quite a lot of business meetings here, especially being in such close proximity to the Houses of Parliament. So we get a few of those guys in as well.
Yeah, and the concept is from your own mind?
Yeah, so it's a collaboration really. So Pem is the nickname of a prominent suffragette called Emily Wilding Davison. So she was the one that sadly died when she was trying to pin a Votes for Women scarf on the King's horse at the Epsom Derby in 1913.
Right.
And we wanted to dedicate the restaurant to strong women and women leading from the front. And obviously being in such a political part of town, the suffragettes are the ones that made the most sense to, give an ode to. And while I'm well aware that the suffragettes weren't perfect, they weren't the most inclusive of people, without them, I wouldn't be sat here today. So, I think all women owe them a lot. And that's why I always urge, I've made all the girls register to vote in the kitchen. It's like, you must vote. They died for us so you could vote. Yeah, so, we obviously don't want to, first and foremost, we're a restaurant that serves delicious food with great wine and great service. So we don't want to, ram the feminism thing down some people's throats. Some people aren't that bothered about hearing about it, but I think it's important that the restaurant has a message, and the kitchen is almost an all-female team, so it's not just virtue signaling. We actually put our money where our mouths are.
Yeah, and I suppose this comes back to the comment you made earlier on about being the change that you want to see. And also I made a note of the fact in my head that you were talking about when you were getting started that there wasn't a huge amount of female chefs to look up to. Are we getting there? Is it getting better?
No, everyone thinks it is, but it's not.
Really?
No, it's not. It's still only 17% of chefs that are women.
Is that right?
And when you get to management, you're looking at less than 5% in kitchens. So no, it's not. I know, and everyone seems, it's better now, it's better now. I think female chefs have had a lot more visibility in the last few years, which is great, because you can't be what you can't see. So I think people should keep putting us on telly and in magazines and on podcasts and things. I think that's really, really important. But I don't think that it's time to rest on our laurels and say that the situation is 50-50, because it's not. And it's nowhere near 50-50. So, I think everybody, men and women, need to continue to push that, change in order to get it where it needs to be and rightly should be, considering that women are the ones that do most of the cooking in a household environment. So why are they not in kitchens?
Yeah, and actually that maybe leads us nicely on to your book, but actually we'll come on to that in a second, because I think this is a really, really important point, and it's maybe not exactly the reason why this podcast was put on the planet, was to raise the profile of issues like this. But at the same time, I can't knowingly just walk past it. If there's some work to be done, what is the work that needs to be done? And I know I've kind of put you on the spot with this. This wasn't in the preamble that we discussed or anything like that. But I think it's a really important topic that doesn't just, as you quite rightly say, people will see a couple of things that maybe look like a difference is being made. But if the reality is not really backing that up, what do we do about it?
Well, I mean, first and foremost, we need to make kitchens, inclusive and good places to work. That's the first thing. There's no point hiring a load of women or people of colour and then still just treating everybody like crap and then being like, oh, why have they all left? Well, I employed them. You've got to make the space that those people feel valued in. You've got to offer maternity cover. You've got to offer all of these things that you might not have offered before. And I think it all comes down to society and the structure of society and power. And I know it's probably getting a bit deep, but I think it's very difficult if a system has been benefiting the person in charge for a long time. They are going to be resistant to change.
Yeah.
So if a chef has been running a restaurant and underpaying the staff, making them work too many hours, not offering any maternity pay, not even letting their chefs go on holiday, they're making more money as a result of that and getting away with it. So then when someone comes and says, hey, excuse me, you need to do this, this and this, there's going to be resistance because that person is thinking, well, hey, if I do all of these things, I'm going to lose some money. Yeah, it's harder for me.
Yeah.
So that change is hard. And I think it's hard to get through to those people, but they're the ones that matter the most because they're the ones that hold the power. It's easy for me to say, well, this is how I run my restaurant. And, other people like Chantal Nicholson, for example, has a predominantly female team and runs a really lovely work environment where everybody gets paid properly. And it's great that those things are happening, but we need allies. We need people to change. We need people to wake up and think, hang on a second, what is important to me? And if money is more important to you than your team, then that's really sad.
Yeah.
And it's really hard to get through to anybody who looks at it like that.
Yeah.
But they are the people that need to change, and they are the people that I really hope read the book, and they probably won't. But if I could get through to just a couple of people and they think, oh, maybe I won't say that to that person, or maybe I'll give that person that extra day of compassionate leave, or those little things, I would be happy to sell less books in order to get through to some of those people.
Yeah. But I suppose that speaks to the whole concept around, it's another saying, and I will forget the exact wording of this, but it's something along the lines of people don't remember the things that you say, they remember how you make them feel.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Stands to reason that the same principle applies in the workplace.
Of course, yeah.
And these are the things that people remember for the long run.
Yeah.
So if your day one, job one is going into an environment where somebody welcomes you in and tells you all of the wonderful things that you're going to get and then backs that up with everything that you need in that phase of your career, you will remember that forever.
Yeah, of course.
By the same token,
Of course.
if somebody treats you like a pile of
Yeah.
dirt,
Yeah.
you're going to remember that
Of course.
forever.
And I just think it's crazy that we can spend all of this time fawning over the guests and making the guests feel like they're the only person that ever existed in the world, and going the extra mile to them, and then go back to the kitchen and everybody's screaming at each other. Like, how the disparity in that is just insane to me.
Yeah.
And, I've read, like Danny Mayer's book and Setting the Table, and like for him, he always says like the team are the number one. And then if you look after the team will naturally look after the guests. Like, that just happens. You don't have to force that.
Yeah.
And yeah, the team are the most important thing. And the team, they're like a representation of you. Mm. And if you set the culture, they'll behave the way you behave. It's learned behaviour. Yeah,
absolutely. I'm a whimsical optimist. I like to believe, and maybe I'm naive, but I've also learnt that being naive, well, you've actually highlighted it in your own journey as well, sometimes can be a really great thing.
Yeah.
Is that if enough of us do try to make a difference, then the ones who are not will quickly find themselves at the bottom of the queue.
Yeah, exactly.
And nobody will want to work for them. They won't be able to run their business.
Exactly. And they'll be weeded out. Natural selection.
Indeed. A positive natural selection.
Yeah, positive natural selection.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, well, I'm conscious of time is ticking. I haven't really spoken about the book yet. We have to talk about the book.
Yes.
Because not many people go ahead and write a book.
No, that's true. That's true.
So I'm really interested to understand, was there a moment where you thought, do you know what? I need to write a bloody book about this.
So I was actually doing a cookbook proposal with my literary agent, Liza, and then she got approached about this memoir. And basically the publishers, Little Brown, had sort of said, there's nothing that exists like this, especially in the UK. There's a couple of really good memoirs. I don't know if you've read Blood, Bones and Butter by Gabrielle Hamilton. Great book. A couple of other female kitchen memoirs in the US, but UK, there's not really much from a professional chef. Certainly someone that's worked in fine dining and Michelin star establishments. Yeah. And I kind of ummed and ahed, and I was like, you know what, actually, I would really like to do this. Like, I think it was important for me because I wanted to. It's not, you've read it. It's not a negative book. It's a positive book. It's a manifesto for change, right? It's basically an account of where I came from, what I experienced, how I've changed, and how I am now trying to perpetuate a better society in kitchens for everybody. And it was really important for me to do that, and it was really important for me to put that voice out there so that others, didn't feel alone. And I've had hundreds of messages in the last 3 weeks from mostly women, but some men as well, saying like, thank you for writing it. And I feel the same. I had that exact same experience. And some of them are still cooking and some of them aren't, but it's actually been overwhelming to see the response for it. And, that's sort of reaffirmed why I wrote it.
Yeah. Did you ever like in your wildest dreams, thinking back to when you started out in your career, think that, yeah, I'm going to be a published author?
No, I didn't know. I mean, I'm not very good at planning, so I can't really see more than, normally a couple of weeks ahead. So no, never in my wildest dreams. I mean, I always loved English and writing when I was younger, so it was something that I have an affinity with and love reading as well. But yeah, I never thought, certainly not a memoir, no.
Yeah, no, indeed. But I genuinely think it's a massively important book, and anybody who's listening to this, absolutely go and grab your copy now, because I just think it's a really, I love people's journeys anyway, the good, the bad and the ugly. I love all of that, because I think even the bad experiences can have positive influence on your life. You know, in some instances you don't pull your punches in the book, and I think that's great. There was a question I had in my head. I was reading some of your kind of anecdotal stuff of some of your experiences, and I was thinking, how did you like wake up one day and say, I'm going to carry on with this? Because you know, and your journey won't be alone in that as well. Is that some of the stuff that you're kind of exposed to, which is really quite juvenile, really, when you break it down into the bare bones of effectively again, we're talking about people who have the power, utilising that power to make other people feel lesser / smaller than themselves, which is quite an insecure position, I think. Yeah, was there ever a point in your life where you were thinking, what am I doing?
Yeah, I mean, plenty of times, yeah, and I think all chefs have been there at one point or another, unfortunately. Yeah, no, I mean, there certainly has, but I think it's like, sometimes it's kind of like when you're in a bad relationship and you're like, oh, well, I've already been with this person for 10 years, so I need to keep going for the sake of the relationship. And then you just keep going, and I guess some people finally wake up and say they don't want to do it anymore, and some people just push through and get through the other side and find a place where they are, you know, happy and safe. And, you know, I've made something that I want to be a part of. So, you know, it's as much for me as it is for the chefs in the kitchen, because I like being here as well, and they like being here. And, you know, we've got the music playing in the kitchen, and everybody's chatting, and the work's still getting done, and everybody's happy, and we're still making nice food. So I'm just like, it can be done. It's possible.
Yeah. Well, you're the blueprint for change. Everybody, go, if you want to see a change, go and write a book.
There you go. There you go. Yeah, just need everybody to buy it and read it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, or just a few select people where the change is needed the most.
Yes, well, that's true. Yeah, that is true.
No, I don't mean that. Everybody should go and buy it.
Yeah.
No, that's great. I mean, I'm very conscious of time, especially because your next appointment is ITV. That's way more important than me.
No.
But I just want to ask you a very quick question: whether there's, because this is a light-hearted podcast, and we like to focus on the anecdotal stuff that's happened. Are there any funny stories from your career that you can share with the audience?
Oh God, I mean, I can't. Picking one is hard. Yeah, I mean, I think, you know, over the years there's been the crazy stuff, like the night at Claridge's when we had the heaviest snow that I think we'd had in like 20 years, and my ex Matt, he'd never really seen snow before because he was Australian, so all the sous chefs basically ran out in the street and started making snow angels, and they came back in the kitchen and started pelting us all with snowballs during service. And then, yeah, like that night it just kept snowing and kept snowing and kept snowing, and like we were on the way home from work at like 1 a.m, and the bus, like TfL just terminated everything, so we just had to get off the bus and walk from like Hammersmith to Chiswick. It was, you know, it was crazy. Then in the morning, like we got up and the snow was the thickest snow you've ever seen in London. It was crazy. And then, you know, so many people like couldn't make it into work the next day. A few of them had to sleep in the canteen because they couldn't get home. Right. Like one of them was on a bus home and it crashed into a tree. And yeah, it was like a crazy, crazy day. But I just remember the snowballs flying over the stoves in the kitchen, just being like, what is going on? Like, can you imagine if like in an office that someone came and started throwing the snowballs around?
But what I really love about that story is that here is, you know, what from the outside looking in would be one of the most professional kitchens that you would ever be in.
Yeah.
And there's snowballs flying around.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I mean, you know, for all the like tough and ugly that there is in kitchens, there's so much good as well, and camaraderie and just fun, really. Like they're just really fun places to be, and you get to be your real self. You don't have to sit there in a shirt and tie and speak corporate speak. You can just be real. And I think that's what's one of the really nice things about being in hospitality.
Yeah, absolutely. That, to me, sounds like a wonderfully positive way to wrap it up.
Perfect.
Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for writing the book. I am absolutely going to come and check the PEM out properly
please do, yes.
In the summer at some point. There's somebody that I'm going to catch up with later in the summer that we had already identified that we're going to come here. So
amazing.
I'll give you a shout when we're around.
Stuff.
But wish you all the very best with the
you.
book and everything else that you've got your head into. It sounds like you're a busy lady at the moment.
I am.
I suppose one final question, actually, there's the obvious answer to this question, but where can people get their hands on your book?
So Amazon or Waterstones are the two main ones. Yeah, it's also available on audiobooks. It's actually on Spotify as well if you want to listen to it.
Splendid. Is it your own voice?
It is my own voice.
Oh, you just had to go in a studio and do that as well.
Yeah.
It's all great new experiences,
yeah,
right?
Definitely, yeah.
Fantastic. Sally, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Take care.
And there we have it. I was beyond happy to get some time with Sally. She's got a great journey, but the working message she's getting out there is also so important. Don't forget to grab your copy of her book. We'll be back as usual next Wednesday at 8 p.m, so have a great week, and I'll see you then.